When I walked through my front door that Saturday night, I expected silence. Instead, I found over 100 people inside my house. Music echoed through the hallway. Wine glasses clinked in my dining room. Children ran across hardwood floors I paid to install. And hanging above it all was a giant banner stretched across my living room. Family means forever. My name is Naomi Reyes, and if you've ever felt invisible in the very place you worked hardest to build, stay with me. Because this story isn't about revenge. It's about what happens when a woman finally stops confusing being useful with being loved. I had just returned early from a medical conference in Washington, exhausted from back-to-back workshops and delayed flights. All I wanted was a shower, tea, and sleep. Instead, I walked into a full family reunion happening inside my home. No one called me. No one asked permission. And judging by the shocked expressions when I stepped inside with my suitcase still in hand, no one expected me back until Sunday. My sister Grace stood in the kitchen wearing a dress she borrowed months earlier and never returned. She looked at me, blinked once, then laughed nervously. "Oh, you're home early." That was it. No apology, no explanation, just surprise that the owner of the house had interrupted the party. I looked around the room. My parents were hosting conversations beneath the chandelier I installed. Cousins I hadn't seen in years were eating from dishes I bought. Someone had turned my office into a kid's playroom. And somehow, in a house with over 100 people inside it, I felt completely alone. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anyone out. I simply carried my suitcase upstairs, locked my bedroom door, and sat in silence while the laughter continued below me. That was the moment something shifted. Not loudly, quietly, permanently. Because I realized my family didn't see me as a daughter or sister. I was infrastructure. I was the dependable one, the responsible one. The woman with the space, the money, the calm personality that made everyone else comfortable. They loved access to my life, but they never truly valued me. Over the next 2 weeks, I made decisions without announcing a single one. I documented everything: the overflowing trash bags, the rearranged furniture, the damage, the sheer entitlement of people treating my home like public property. Then I met with a realtor, not to sell the house completely, to transform it. Because while my family saw a party venue, I saw possibility. I had spent years building a successful integrative medical practice focused on preventive care and women's wellness. Patients constantly told me how hard it was to find spaces where they felt genuinely heard. And suddenly I knew exactly what that house needed to become: not a reunion hall, a healing center. 7 days later, contracts were signed. The property would be converted into a wellness clinic through a professional partnership under my company name, Shoreline Integrative Center. The family reunion house was gone, and I didn't tell anyone until the paperwork was final. I left one envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a copy of the transfer agreement, a realtor contact, and a handwritten note. Looks like forever just ended. My phone exploded within an hour. Voicemails, texts, missed calls, Grace crying, my father demanding answers, my mother calling me selfish. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt calm, because they weren't upset about losing me. They were upset about losing access. Grace showed up at my apartment the next evening furious. "What are we supposed to do now?" she snapped. I looked at her quietly. "Find a home that doesn't belong to me." She stared at me like she'd never heard the word boundary spoken out loud before. Then came the line that told me everything. "You embarrass the family. Not you hurt us. Not we're sorry. Just concern over appearances." That's when I realized something painful. Some people will tolerate your exhaustion as long as it keeps their lives comfortable. The moment you protect your peace, they call it betrayal. But I was done shrinking. While my family panicked over where to host holidays, I focused on opening the clinic. We renovated the downstairs into consultation rooms. The dining room became a wellness education space. My old office transformed into a counseling suite for women experiencing burnout, stress, and chronic health neglect. And slowly, something beautiful happened. Women began walking through those doors, carrying the same invisible exhaustion I had carried for years. Single mothers, caretakers, nurses, teachers, women who spent their lives supporting everyone else while quietly disappearing themselves. One patient looked around the waiting room during opening week and whispered, "This place feels safe." I almost cried, because for years my own home never had. Thanksgiving arrived a few months later. Normally, my house hosted everything. Every year I cooked, organized, cleaned, decorated, and somehow still ended up feeling like an afterthought in every family photo. But this year was different. Instead of hosting relatives who barely acknowledged me, Shoreline Integrative Center hosted a community dinner for women without support systems. The room was filled with warmth, laughter, honesty. No performance, no obligation. Just people grateful to be seen. An older woman raised her glass during dinner and said something I'll never forget. "Real family is the place where you don't have to earn your right to belong." That sentence healed something inside me. Meanwhile, online, my family was still pretending everything was normal, matching holiday photos, captions about togetherness, carefully cropped versions of reality. But eventually, the truth surfaced. A local publication featured my clinic in an article titled, "The Doctor Who Turned Heartbreak into Healing." In the interview, I shared the truth gently, honestly, without bitterness. I talked about coming home to find strangers in my house, about realizing I had spent years creating comfort for people who never created safety for me, about learning that boundaries aren't cruelty, they're self-respect. The article spread quickly. Messages poured in from women across the country saying the same thing. I thought I was the only one. That's the thing about healing. The moment one person tells the truth, others finally feel permission to tell theirs too. My mother eventually wrote me a long letter explaining that they never meant to hurt me. But intention doesn't erase impact, and love without accountability is just performance. A few weeks later, Grace invited me to her baby shower. I didn't go. Instead, the clinic hosted a free wellness event for first-time mothers with limited support systems. We provided prenatal care, counseling, baby supplies, and meals. One exhausted young woman hugged me before leaving and whispered, "Thank you for making me feel like I matter." That meant more to me than every forced family toast combined, because I finally understood something. I wasn't abandoned. I was redirected. Everything I poured into people who overlooked me eventually became something meaningful when I poured it into the right place. Months later, Shoreline expanded. A second location, scholarship programs, partnerships with community health organizations. The house my family once used for parties became a place where women rebuilt their lives. And me? I stopped waiting for invitations. I stopped measuring my worth by who included me. I stopped confusing proximity with love. One evening, after a long clinic day, I walked through the halls alone. The waiting room lights were dim. Fresh flowers sat on the reception desk. Soft music played through the speakers. And for the first time in my life, I felt fully at home. Not because everyone approved of me, not because my family suddenly changed, but because I finally chose myself without apology. People still ask if I regret selling the house. I always smile when they do, because I didn't lose a home. I reclaimed it. I turned a place where I once felt invisible into a place where people could finally feel seen. And honestly, that's the kind of legacy worth building.